Okay, hey, hi everybody. My name is Onepeg. So there was a video that NotLikeThis made where I guess he talked about me specifically in a couple of spots. And he also made mention of how he believes Ironmace is a predatory company that is a video game company first, company that is trying to become a bigger company first, not a company that's trying to make a quality video game. Says that they are participating in a bunch of shady stuff, some of which I agree. But also at the same time is calling out Ironmace, saying that Ironmace is being predatory, tries to rope in content creators like myself and others by saying that we are like towing the Ironmace line because we signed NDA agreements and the like. So I want to shed some light on that stuff and talk about what it is that I guess content creators, at least myself, because I can't really talk about anybody else, are being accused of, and try to, as best as I can, shed some light on everything that is going on. Okay. Because I think in some of these cases, I have a little bit better of an understanding than NotLikeThis does. Okay, so first and foremost, he goes through and talks about how Ironmace, he believes, is being a predatory company. Talks about optics and performative actions versus real ones focused on solving true problems. He says something here about, also about gaslighting, which I think is a little bit ironic because, anyway, he talks about anti-cheat, saying that IM promises they take it seriously and created a private Discord for only streamers/creators to report. This is untrue. There is a section of a content creator like Meeting Hub that has a report cheating section associated with it that is available to all of the people that are listed as content creators. But the purpose of the Discord is not to report cheaters. It's like one of the sections that exists in the Discord. Yeah, I've never even used it. I don't even, maybe people are, I have no idea, but I've never even used that. In fact, like if you looked at my account, like I've never even reported somebody for cheating. I'm like, I don't know, unless it's like super egregious. I have no idea. And maybe I'm taking this a little personally because like he talks about me specifically at a couple of different points, which is a little bit weird to me, but you know, whatever. He then talks about how, like what gaslighting is. Denying or twisting facts, events, or the victim's feelings, making them feel like concerns are invalid or exaggerated, changes the subject or questions the victim's thoughts, minimizes and dismisses people's feelings, tell them that they're overreacting, lying about or denying something, refusing to admit the lie even when proof is shown, and be adamant they did or said something even when they didn't do that, or blame them for something that wasn't their fault and make them feel like it. Okay? So I just wanted to keep the gaslighting thing in the back of your head because he accuses IM of gaslighting, but in my opinion, he's also doing a fair share of that himself when it comes to the community. So he talks about at first that Ironmace had several seed rounds where Ironmace was invested in by Hybe, who owns BTS, and also had some different VC rounds where money was injected into Ironmace. And then says that there's the potential that they could also be getting invested in by Tencent, which is a huge investor in a lot of game studios. You can see the massive list of games here that Tencent and studios that Tencent are invested in. Games that are widely celebrated by like tens of millions, if not more, people that play all of these video games. And for all of the things that they are criticized for and predatory monetization in games like League of Legends, people still play them by the millions. There's like 1 billion friggin' players in League of Legends and Fortnite alone. Like, there's so many people playing those games that the predatory monetization stuff, like you could say, well, I'm never going to spend a penny on that game, and they don't care, right? Now, I'm not saying that Ironmace hasn't taken a part in the predatory monetization stuff, and I'll get to that in a second. But to say that Tencent was investing in Ironmace, and maybe that's a bad thing. Or he also mentions that Ironmace might be using Tencent servers. They are. They migrated to Tencent servers, not recently. They migrated to Tencent servers 2 years ago, back when the original DMCA claim came out, and they pushed everything off of AWS onto Tencent server hosting because it's centralized out of China, and they couldn't get DMCA copyright struck because they wouldn't have been using an American company anymore, which is Amazon, right? So since they're not using Amazon and they're using Tencent, now they can't get DMCA copyright struck and the servers would stay up, trying to keep the game open for people to play it. Right? Right. In terms of them getting found guilty of misappropriation of trade secrets and saying that at one point in time, he talks about how SDF could have the case reopened for criminality. And then he references a news article somewhere in here talking about how Ironmace got slagged in the media for stealing trade secrets somewhere. But what he didn't do is talk about the news article that also existed 5 months ago, more recent than the news article that he references in this video, because he tried to say that Grayson came out and said that there wasn't any wrongdoing found and that somebody from the police task force that was investigating these guys and seized all this information said that that was untrue. However, 5 months ago, it came out that all of this forensic data, what this says is that a bunch of forensic data was sent to 2 criminal labs, one local in Seoul, South Korea, and one federal, like national level laboratory that specializes in like specifically copyright and trade secret theft, IP theft. They went through everybody's files and came back and said nothing was stolen. And the only count that remains for SDF to have to go into to be like actually reviewed is one in which he was using a server outside of Nexon's permission when he was working at home during the tail end of COVID, when he didn't have permission and they were telling him that he had to come back into the office. That's the one thing that he has left that he has to see like a judge over. The rest of this has already been done and dealt with and has been figured out as of 5 months back. Now, NotLikeThis did not reference this article. He only referenced the one where the police said that he was like, or that there was material evidence and that they didn't know what they were talking about, or the Discord thing that they had put up, that Grayson had put up saying that it wasn't a big deal, was wrong. And he then goes to talk about predatory monetization and talks about how there was a bunch of stuff that happened with pay-to-win features, like the Philidian skin, which of all of the predatory, like pay-to-win monetization stuff is probably the most egregious of all of them. The Philidian skin, which I personally didn't think was a big deal because it was 1.5 move speed, but I concede that of all of the pay-to-win spectrum things that have happened in this game, this is the worst one. There is still predatory monetization ongoing. A huge reach, though, was this where he said that they made the torch skin look worse. Like the default one was look more gnarled and like disheveled mess-ish in order to be able to entice people to want to buy the drip torch skins. That seems like such a huge reach to me. It's insane. I feel like people would just buy the torch skin regardless. If you're telling me like there's a difference between like this to this is a wider gap than this one to this one is just kind of like outlandish to me. But, you know, whatever. Now, he then goes on to talk about the season pass. And this is the one thing that I do really kind of agree with, although it's on the continuum of what I refer to as pay for convenience as opposed to pay to win. But the one big issue that I have is the seasonal marketplace listing slots. Prior to this season pass being introduced, players had like 100, because they had 10 character slots of 10 sales slots each. They had 100 sales slots. That was reduced to 10, and then they sold us back 10 more. The shared stash tab, pay for convenience kind of stuff, I look at that as like something like Grinding Gear Games does, Path of Exile, where you buy stash tabs. Granted, the stash tabs are permanent, and this seems like a little bit odd to me. Something that Escape from Tarkov did, which I heavily criticized, actually, and I criticized this, although it didn't look like it was nearly as egregious. This was $8.99. It's $9. What I looked at was, it was an $8 torch skin, okay? It was $8 for the torch, which is one redstone shard cheaper, like $2 less than other redstone-only torches that are available on the marketplace right now, and then 99 cents for the rest of this stuff. The gold coin bags, which aren't tradable, you can't sell them, but allow for gold storage. Yes, it saves a lot of storage for a lot of people, for sure. People proficient at this game can go farm troll pelts until, you know, they fall over dead, and they would make up all of that access in no time, relatively no time. Now, there's going to be competition for that, but that's, you know, what people do to play the game. The potions and everything, okay, yeah. But the big egregious thing for me was the shared stash tab and the marketplace listing slots. I thought that was kind of shitty. And I've said as much. I've sent DMs to the devs to tell them that I didn't agree with this change. I have only, like on maybe 3 occasions, mentioned anything to developers about what I considered to be balance issues or game direction issues that I felt shouldn't have gone the way that they did. The vast majority of the time when I'm sending DMs to devs, it's about bug reports. That's all I'm trying to do is provide them with bugs, like so that they get fixed. That's what I'm just trying to make the game better for people. But, you know, now I'm acting like I'm being defensive. And anyway, let's move on. So then he talks about the tavern table and how the social hub was shown as a place where, people could get it set up. And then Not Like This talks about how it's ridiculous that they would try to sell this as a premium feature where people would be renting a server for a couple of bucks a month. Again, this is a purely cosmetic thing. There's no in-game advantage to it whatsoever. It just allows people to be like social with each other. And they were talking about like it was going to be like $2 a month. If you don't want to do that, don't pay the monthly fee. Like, I don't look at it like that's that big of a deal. Just don't pay for it. You don't have to have it for yourself. They modeled this after, and he talks about Facepunch. They modeled this after the premium server model that Facepunch utilizes, where people pay an extra amount of money every month, and people are able to take advantage of those premium servers. In Facepunch's case, it was a way to try to weed out the cheating community a little bit more so that cheaters weren't able to take advantage of people on those servers because they'd have to pay extra money to just then get VAC banned. Some people pushed back on this. Other people thought it was a cool idea. Again, just don't pay for it. If you don't want to do that, don't pay for it. Now, he tried to say that like modeling stuff after Facepunch with the Rust gaming community at large being toxic and hostile. Okay, fine. But they're still widely regarded as a very successful game dev studio that is made up of less people than Ironmace is. And the game devs and the community managers themselves are not regarded as toxic people. They're regarded as people that are widely celebrated. One of the weapon and like object modelers, the guy that's the head of one of their teams, I have had very close conversations with over multiple hours about modeling in games like Escape from Tarkov versus that of Arena Breakout Infinite, because it was believed at one point in time that Nikita thought that ABI had stolen their modeling IP from Escape from Tarkov to make their guns using skins directly taken from like their Mosin, for instance. And I asked if he would work with me, and we went through with a fine-tooth comb over like a 2-hour period of time, pulling apart all of that mesh to look at the skins, to look at the way that the models were made up, to say like, yeah, these are really similar, but they couldn't be denoted as something that was the same, ultimately coming to the conclusion that ABI probably purchased that skin from the same vendor that Tarkov did, that BSG did. So like, sometimes when you do what I do for a living, you get to actually like have a lot of conversations with people and learn an awful lot about game dev process. I'm not a game dev myself, but I'm very curious about it. So I try to ask questions about like how things work and why things work the way that they do, which has thankfully given me some amount of insight into like how this business works and what people do and how it's built. And I'm not saying this to try and like attack Not Like This. I'm just trying to like offer an alternative view on this. He tries to say that the reason why they are modeling their model the way that they are is after Steam, by saying that there are skins in the game that cost over $1,000. But he doesn't mention that the $1,000 skin is not $1,000 from Facepunch. He's talking about how the $1,000 skin is being sold as $1,000 on a reseller market through the Steam marketplace. That is not a price tag that Facepunch put on the skin. That is a price tag that the community itself has put on that particular skin. Things just go up in price over time sometimes. You don't know what they're going to be, but if I ever wanted to get a whole bunch of free Steam games, I could resell like the skins that I've got for some of the characters that I've got in Dota, and or some of the pets or whatever, the couriers, and be able to buy a whole bunch of video games, I guess. In this case, like I look at this as a disingenuous comparison between the two studios when they're saying that they're trying to model it. He's trying to say that because Terry has a history in marketing, of which Terry does. Terry has been in this business for a long time. He was integral in the invention of the loot box when he worked for EA back in the day, when they were trying to come up with a monetization scheme for FIFA World Tour. Okay. So like way back when, he was involved in the creation of the loot box. Some of that is eking through the cracks here, but I think that's also a cultural thing. I've made videos. You can go back and look at my tenure, okay? I've made videos about Arena Breakout Infinite, talking about how ABI had predatory monetization practices, and I viewed that as direct pay to win. You're buying currency that allows you to be able to buy guns and armor. Sure, it doesn't make you a better player, but it still gives you like the ability to go and fight people with stuff that you bought for real money. Tarkov wasn't like that. ABI is. Tarkov is pay for convenience. ABI is direct pay to win, in my opinion. The guys at ABI took content creators to dinner at Gamescom and asked those other content creators why I was being so mean to them in my YouTube videos. They didn't understand it. because culturally in South Korea, small, like pay-to-win-ish kind of features that they offer in the games that they make as a culture is widely accepted by the Southeast Asian gaming community. It's not accepted by the Western market, but in Southeast Asia, it is. It's just like the way that they work. Now, Ironmace, to their credit, even though they've tried to slip things in the cracks, like that season pass, even though we're critical of them, some guys look at it like they're just going to be dick eaters and they're going to buy the fucking skins and they're going to buy the season pass, okay? They're going to be dick eaters and they're going to say like, it's not that big of a deal. Myself being one of them, because I look at it as pay for convenience, and for me, pay for convenience is kind of sort of all right, as long as it's not like too over the top. Skins on torches especially, like they're purely cosmetic items. That's not that big of a deal. But people are going to be dick eaters and they're going to pay for it, right? And they're trying to find that fine line where they can monetize their game effectively for ongoing development cost, just like every other live service game does nowadays, because that's just widely accepted normal practice. Okay, if they have to pay for the servers, there's going to be ongoing monetization. That's just the way it works. They're trying to balance that with community sentiment. That's it. And whatever we as a community are willing to accept from their monetization practices, that's where the line is going to get drawn. So if the rest of the community thinks that stuff like the extra 10 sales slots by taking away 90 and then selling us back 10 is bullshit, then you go after them, right? You should. You absolutely should. And if that word gets loud enough, they'll change it, just like they have with the other like 2 or 3 things that they've done in the past. They talked about like the Warlocks and the Bard being for redstone shards. That was changed in like the first 2 days. If I went back and dug, I could show you a DM that I wrote Terry the day that the game launched. Because remember, I was the first person in the entire community that was told that the game was launching that day outside of Ironmace employees. And I got to make that video. All right, like they were referencing me on IGN and shit. That release of that game, when they released it, trying to sell those skins for redstone shards, I wrote Terry a DM at that moment when he told me that and said that this is going to have pushback. Like people are not going to accept that. And he said we were modeling it after the League of Legends model, which makes sense because League of Legends is a hugely monetized game, but is also played by a fuck ton of people. And I said, well, look, this kind of game, you're not going to get those kinds of gamers. They're not going to want that. I don't like this. No one's really going to like this. You're going to get a lot of pushback. And they pushed back. When inside like a week or whatever, they changed it so that every one of those classes was included automatically. Everybody got them for nothing. And if you had spent redstone or bluestone shards on them, they were refunded. People got those shards back. They're learning from their mistakes. People screw up. They make mistakes. It's part of it. And even if they were testing the waters trying to see what they could get away with, like that's kind of part of being a capitalist. Not for nothing, right? They're going to try to do that. It's kind of scummy. But you can't really blame them for doing that. They're modeling monetization schemes that have worked for larger, more successful games. They're just modeling it after those to see if the community will be okay with it. Because if this was just a South Korean game, it probably would have been. Anyway, I'm soapboxing. Moving on. He then talks about how SDF was leaking information inside of chats of streamers and how that's not okay. I agree with this. I completely agree with this. It should not have been like that. I believe that SDF and the devs also agree with this and say that they're going to change this. They're not going to do it this way anymore. They're going to be, or try to be more communicative and open. Oh yeah, here's the article about Grayson, or Grayson saying that it wasn't a big deal. Again, he didn't share this Korean news article, but it is what it is. Then he goes into the night program and says, and tries to say something to the effect of the night program is a sham. I think he actually says it's a sham because the knights aren't doing like classroom level activities where, and he references like the military or like school systems where you're not doing like one-on-one instruction, except that this program is being modeled directly after the Sherpa program that is used in Escape from Tarkov, and Tarkov does most of their teaching as a one-on-one deal. Like, yes, there are talks about like, this is how you QE lean and stuff, but for the most part, the Tarkov Sherpa program is a one-to-one program that they use a ticketing system for. And not for nothing, it seems kind of weird to me that he would try to pick on the Knights program or whatever by saying that this was a sham or that like he felt like this was ridiculous because it's one-to-one and that it's not real or whatever. When you have guys that are dedicating hundreds of hours of their own volunteer time to help out gamers just because they're trying to teach people how to play the game because they care about the game and they want people to be more proficient gamers, especially if they're not content creators, of which the vast majority of them, like 95% of them are. There's a handful of people that are content creators. Everybody else is just a normal, average person playing this video game because they like it, and they decided to spend their time teaching people that don't know anything about it. I don't know how you get more honorable than that. Like, that's pretty fucking selfless, if you ask me. Then he goes into talking about like other people like Vincent and some other people that used to work for Ironmace that were getting paid by Ironmace. I have no idea whether or not any of this stuff is true. He then talks about how like he was getting stream sniped a year ago from somebody and was frustrated with how he wasn't getting help with this. And he was saying that he was getting DDoSed by some other people that were hacking him or whatever, and got his IP address and like started maliciously like stream sniping him or whatever. And while I feel for him and how this is really, really shitty, it looks like Ironmace kind of took care of it. Maybe they didn't take care of it to his satisfaction, but it feels like he wasn't getting the response that he wanted to get. Then he goes into talking about Soma and saying that Soma wasn't divulging that he was managing or is managing Jay, Repose, and Yami. And he doesn't understand why there hasn't been something public made about why Soma didn't say that he was doing like individual management for those three people. The simple answer is because he doesn't fucking have to. He doesn't. He doesn't have to divulge whether he's a contractor or a full-time employee at Ironmace. Even though like he came out and did say that and he was in charge of their marketing initiatives, probably as a contractor, probably not on like direct payroll as a direct employee. Being on payroll from Ironmace and representing like three people for other business deals, trying to help them make money, is not something that he has to publicly disclose, like at all. I don't understand why this is looked at as something that's disingenuous. People have side businesses every fucking where. It's not even a conflict of interest. It would be one thing if like Jay was relatively unknown or Yami was relatively unknown or Repose was relatively unknown and they were being forced to the forefront by Ironmace and every little thing that Ironmace did and getting constantly highlighted specifically by Ironmace. But they weren't. They got to their level of popularity of their own volition. They were really good at what they did, and they were celebrated by the community at large, not for anything that Jordan did for them. They were just good content creators. They still are. Yami was the most popular, I believe, content creator that streamed drops this last round. I'm not jealous. It just is what it is. People like him. He's funny. Like at this point, like trying to pick on these guys and picking on me just makes it look like you wanted to be in their position but weren't. And because you weren't, that was a huge problem for you. And I'm sorry that you feel like you were overlooked. I just don't understand why there's all of this animosity in comparing yourself having been passed over for other people that weren't. And picking out individual people that are on this list that didn't deserve it or didn't stream it as much as you thought that they should have, or weren't a big enough content creator, or aren't really playing the game that much anymore. Like, I don't understand what the big deal is. You're talking about like, and then you're talking about the very first like day one Drops enabled streams. Drops was really fucked up. Twitch changed the rules about the way that Drops was going to work, like literal days before the Dark and Darker drop streams kicked off. They changed rules and said that like the drops themselves that got dropped couldn't be duplicates from other people that had drops enabled. They had to change all of that stuff around so that you couldn't have like a little box with like random shit in it, even though Escape from Tarkov still does that. So for whatever reason, like they're allowed to get away with it, but Ironmace wasn't. I don't know what the rule is there. But I can tell you that like Ironmace had to change everything at like the 11th hour to make it work. And that's why, like, after the first or second day, like, the whole thing fell on its face. And them saying that, like, everybody got access or, like, only a select few people, like, comparatively got access on the first day, that's nothing new either. We already talked about Rust comparisons. There's been a bajillion, like, very specific content creator-related skins, specifically for specific Rust streamers that they help create to be in the video game, that they only have the drop for. Tons of them. Like an absurd number of them. The same thing happens with Hunt Showdown. There are streamer items inside of Escape from Tarkov. I never got to get one of those. I would really like one. That would have been pretty cool. But you don't see me sitting there going like, oh, well, I didn't get a fucking streamer item and I've been doing this forever, man. Like, it just looks like you wish that you weren't left out. And I feel for you. I do. But unfortunately, an awful lot of this is you made some really good points, but a lot of this looks like it's just wrapped up that like you were not picked for basketball. Like you got cut from the basketball team or something. And then you talk about like your personal interaction with Soma and how you don't like how Soma treated you and him trying to recruit you to manage you at the same time and you didn't like it. Okay, like that's all on you. Then you also make mention though of this moment here, saying that you got a DM from somebody that said that SDF's personal inventory had 5 Nippelon, 29 chests, all full, and he had 500,000 gold in his inventory. Like he was using dev commands to give himself armor and weapons and gold and whatever. Like in playing that account on official servers. Like not for nothing, we have no validation that the account that you use or got a DM from had any knowledge of this. There's zero proof of this. This is literal substantiation of rumor. And when you're talking about gaslighting at the beginning of this video, that's exactly what this is. People are going to look at this and they're going to believe it because they want to. Not because they've been proven that it exists, but just because they're like, well, he probably does. And that's dangerous. It's dangerous because this looks like you're trying to undermine community sentiment in general. Like the community already looks at this video game as something where they believe that the servers, the devs, whatever, are inept. But now you're also trying to say that they're contributing, first person contributing to the cheating issue without having any proof that they actually did because some random guy DM'd you and told you that he saw a thing. And you never said that you vetted him. You never mentioned that why you would have. And then you also say that they aren't doing anything to combat RMT, not really. And you were told that you would get in trouble if you ended up making a YouTube video about cheating. So I actually have some insight on this. The reason why people don't make videos about cheaters and cheating is because it's marketing for cheat developers. You ever notice that when somebody makes a cheat video, they start getting tons of DMs out of the blue from people that are cheat devs to tell them how rampant the cheating is in the video game that they love so much? Because what they're trying to do is say like, and they offer like, I'm happy to do an interview with you. I would love to talk more about this. I can give you some insight as to how little they moderate their own video game and how little we are detected. It's laughably bad. And the reason why they do that is because they know if they can get a content creator with enough attention to make a video about it, where they have a conversation with a cheat dev, and the cheat dev always says, our cheats never get seen, people are getting away with it, we have been for literal years, like, it's actually laughable how bad their cheat detection is. It's because the sales for the cheat software go up. When Goatmoth made a video about Escape from Tarkov, the wiggle that killed Tarkov, this extremely viral cheating video where he walked around wiggling at other people and could see wireframes because he downloaded cheats, that increased the sales for the cheat that he was using. That cheat dev saw a 1,500% increase in sales in a week, in their first week after that video went live. It is marketing. And the reason why companies, game devs, don't want people making videos about cheating, because cheating's bad in every video game, but the reason why they don't want people making videos about cheating is because it literally increases the sales of the cheats that exist for that game, and the cheating gets worse. It doesn't get better. He then goes on to talk about how Grayson has an alt account. He does. He has this one alt account. He did it because he's trying to manage all of the DMs that he was getting. He also mentions that Terry has an alt account as well, which he also does. Terry has a desktop at work with its own Discord account, and then he also has his Craps78 Discord account that is used for his cell phone. That's been like that since before anyone knew what Dark and Darker was. He then talks about bad hiring and firing of other employees, talking about, in part, Odin and some other stuff. Soma and Odin and Seb, okay? So Sebastian. Seb was one of the guys that was shown in one of the little podcast, like, cutout videos here. Like, that's him. That's Seb, okay? Seb is a kid. He's a kid that actually did a lot. He was one of the people that was very integral in cheat detection and banning cheaters in the video game. Unfortunately, he also was trying to look cool in front of his friends and was sharing things that he was being shown from a marketing perspective prior to when those notes were being released. Because he was able to play, he's part of people that work for Ironmace are part of like a playtest group. They get advanced builds of the game before we're able to see them to test internally. And when things look like they're moving in a promising direction, they have an idea of like what's coming down the line. So Seb knew things that were coming up in patches and was sharing them with his friends because he was trying to look cool. And he got terminated because he was sharing information prior to Ironmace wanting the public to know about it. Soma left of his own accord because he felt like he wasn't getting listened to. Tons of DMs from Soma. In fact, I believe that he's doing a podcast in like 8 days where he's going to hop on and he's going to tell everybody about it himself, because I think the NDA period for the NDA that he signed runs up then. I think that he'll be able to finally publicly talk about it. And the belief is that he took a paycheck, severance package to leave, and him leaving the company and is living in this area of San Francisco that looks like it's kind of nice, and that the severance must have been pretty nice for him to be quiet about it or whatever. One, there's no way that you know about anybody else's living situation. Jordan doesn't talk about his personal life because it's the fucking internet and it's none of your goddamn business. It's none of my business either. I know that he's a dad. I know that he's got a kid. I know that he's trying to do the best by his own family. Like, let the man make a fucking living. And if you're saying that there's a conflict of interest because he's trying to like make his own bag, like, that's absurd. That's silly. Now, if you don't want to play the game, if Not Like This doesn't want to play the game, if anybody else doesn't want to play that game, fine. By all means, run your moral superiority high ground as according to your own morals and values. But judging other people based on what they consider to be okay or not okay is silly. That's silly. People are going to live the way that they need to live and provide for their own the way that they need to. And not for nothing, dude. If I'm being a purist, okay? Like, my loyalty is to the person that I married and to my own children. In the world of things that people could do that are like really shitty, that is like so far down the totem pole of things that people could do that are like bad or exploitive that it's laughable. Soma doesn't owe you shit, and neither does anyone else. I mean, you can be pissed at him. You can say fuck them. That's fine. You can say fuck me. I don't care. At the end of the day, I'm doing what's right by my own moral code, and I can only say that you guys should do the same. If ours don't align and you think I'm a piece of shit for saying that because I'm just giving you what I consider to be like honest truth, that's okay. I don't mind. Odin, same deal. Difference of opinion. He doesn't like the way that Ironmace is managed. He thinks that they're being like a shitty management company. Like, he doesn't think that they know what they're doing. Odin left of his own accord. He quit. They left the door open for him. I talked to Odin myself, aside from Ironmace, and asked him what happened. Odin said that they left the door open for him. He could go back anytime he wanted to. He doesn't want to, but he could go back if he wanted to. I had a meeting regarding the GCX charity marathon, of which Ironmace is supposed to be a part of because they were last year and it was amazing, raising money for childhood cancer, right? Childhood cancer research. They are going to be a part of that again this year, I hope. When I talked to Terry about GCX, he made mention that Odin left. But he also said to me independently, I never made mention that I even talked to Odin. Independently, he said Odin could come back and work for them anytime he wanted to. The door was always open. They loved having him there. Odin was a good employee. He passionately cared about the game. He was trying to organize the thought process of the community as it came through to Ironmace and filter that in meaningful bulleted points that people thought that the game should be moving in a certain direction. He was absolutely working on the community's behalf. I never once thought that he didn't. He has been a very, very decent person. He was not a host of a podcast. He was a guest on the podcast, not a host of it. He actually refused to be on the podcast a number of times. In fact, he made a comment on Not Like This's video that somehow, mysteriously, as long as we're gaslighting, got deleted. I don't know how it could have gotten deleted, but it did. Dragging my name when you never once came to me for comment while using things all other set of context to push your narrative is pretty scummy and undermines the journalistic integrity of what you're presenting. There's a lot of plainly incorrect information in this video, which is interesting considering I know you talked to a few people and misrepresented or just flat out lied about what they said by choice. To be clear, I'm not defending Ironmace. In fact, I resigned and left a few days ago because I got fed up with dealing with them. They would frequently lie to me and all of the overseas staff or completely leave us out of important conversations and ignore us. And what you attribute to me being a liar is just another example of the people who signed my check, changing their minds and making me look like a fool, one of the many reasons why I left. You also claimed I was a podcast host. That's not true. Before Ironmace, I worked as an IT admin for a state government office. I took a significant pay cut, not to mention retirement benefits and stability, to join Ironmace because it was my dream since I was a kid to work in the game industry, and I loved and believed in Dark and Darker. Like everyone else, I became jaded, but I did this out of passion for the game, of loving communities. I wanted people to succeed on all fronts. And thankfully, the creators, I know that I actually cared a great deal and tried my absolute damnedest to help them and make the game and community a better place. But others who are not familiar, or more importantly, potential future employers, may take what you said at face value, which is why it's important to tell the whole truth and not the biased narrative you want to tell. I take issue with that comment no longer existing. He edited down that comment and put it up and said, I expect better from you. It doesn't exist in the comments section anymore. Now, I don't know if there was anything in there that Odin wrote that he was like auto-modded by YouTube, or if it got deleted, but there's no profanity. He doesn't end up using a slur. He just basically says, like, you did not do a good job. You didn't do your due diligence. And I agree. He did not. And I think it's got a lot of bias and slant to it. And not for nothing, like, there's a lot of reaching. Now, another point, though, that I will agree with, that I feel that Ironmace has not paid attention to, is that their most popular game modes, being solos and duos and normals, etc., are being shoved off for, like, the whole trios only thing. We have talked about that ad nauseum. I made a video about that literally yesterday, 24 hours ago, not even 24 hours ago, talking about how I thought that was a bad idea, and which is why all of these, like, is SDF killing Ironmace and Dark and Darker by extension? Is SDF ruining the entire game for everyone? That's why all those videos got made, because of those changes that are getting made on test server that everybody seems to be pushing back on, but SDF is sticking to his guns anyway. If the game becomes less popular, the RMT associated with the game becomes less profitable. They're literally killing RMT because they're killing the player base off. So, like, if they were all about RMT, you would think that they would just be like trying to shove every game mode, make this game as popular as it possibly could be, and give everybody all the content in the world and focus only on that. You know, taking away the most popular game modes. Like, it doesn't, it's counteractive to the narrative that he's trying to portray here. Okay, and then lastly, this last section, he talks about where he's been, what he's been doing, etc., etc. He says that life is hard, and he wants people to donate to him if they feel like this video was something that they considered informative or educational entertaining. And he says that his life has been pretty dark, and it's dark enough to where, like, he feels like he would get in trouble with YouTube if he talks about it. Now, I got to be honest. My man, if you're going through some mental health shit, or if life is tough, I fucking feel for you. I do. I've been there, man. I've lived out of my car, okay? Like, I know that, like, life can be shitty. And from a mental health perspective, brother, I hope that whatever treatment you feel like you need to pursue, or if you've been pursuing it, or if you feel like you need professionals to step in, like, whether or not I agree with any of the shit that you're saying, man, like, I hope that you're okay. If you're not okay, I hope that you find a way to become okay. Because, like, you know, it looks like you have a passion about, you know, editorial content. I think that you need to do a better job about it, but I would like to see more of this stuff from you. I would love to see you continue doing this, because obviously you have something that you care about and you're pursuing it. Please continue to do that. I may disagree with you, but I don't think you're a bad person, and I would like you to continue to be here, okay? So, like, I'm sorry that life is hard. I am. At the same time, though, I gotta be honest, you make mention in this very specific spot, an hour and 15 or so minutes into your video, about how I, on the first day of drops, of which I am not even listed among the people that you are showing here, you make mention of me specifically and say that I made more money on day one of the Twitch Drops campaign back in September than you have made in your total time in the 2 years that you have spent on YouTube. I don't know why we are comparing notes on this, or why you feel like I am someone that is undeserving of having earned the amount of money that I have on that day, because it was more money than what you've earned in your YouTube channel as a whole. I have spent 7.5 years doing this. It has been a full-time gig for me for the last 6 years. I feel like I work incredibly hard and diligently at what it is that I do for a living. I don't know why I feel like I have to defend myself against this. Me making the money that I did on that day, I have no idea what kind of money I made. I can tell you that, like, my life is not a cheap thing to live. You know, I got 3 kids. My son is 20. You look like you're only a couple of years older than him even. I have a daughter in high school, or going into high school, and I have a toddler. I have a spouse. I have mortgage payments. I have bills. You know, I'm living like the life of somebody that's, like, you know, lived a bunch of careers and decided that at 36 I wanted to become a full-time content creator and tried to make a run at it. And I got lucky, and people ended up resonating with the stuff I make. I don't know why that happened, but I'm trying not to lose that. And sometimes one of the things, maybe you learn, maybe you don't. Sometimes you learn how to play the game, and sometimes you burn bridges. I burned a big one with Battlestate Games. Battlestate Games won't even fucking talk to me in the vast majority of circumstances. I still get included on Twitch Drops and stuff, and I can still send in a DM to Nikita, but there's a lot of people in that studio that hate my fucking guts because of calling them out for shit that they did. Looking back on it, I probably would have been a little bit softer about it. Because when you're early on, you're trying to make a splash and you say really loud things and you try and be really loud about it. And people will resonate with that by saying, fuck yeah, he's standing up for what he believes in, both feet on the floor, bro, like puff out your chest. Don't shy away from it. Stand there and fucking yeah. Except the people that look at you as somebody that's polarizing and loud, unless you end up getting a massive audience, like an Asmongold or a Tectone or something like that, where you're getting like tens of thousands of concurrent viewers to where it doesn't matter anymore, you lose out on relationships with game devs, people that you would like to be able to talk to about the questions that you're trying to have answered. They won't talk to you because you'd rather slag them in a video like this instead of going and asking them the inquisitive questions. It looks like you did a little bit with Soma, but you tried to sound accusatory at the same time. Other people, in future game devs, like you cough and joke about how Legacy Steel and Sorcery is a shit game. Okay, you could believe that, and that's okay. Make a pointed video about the individual mechanics that you dislike and why. Make comparisons to other games that you like more. I have been critical of Legacy myself. I don't like the over-the-shoulder camera. I say that as much as I have over history. But I also talk about things that I like about the game too, because I believe that the game is kind of cool. Now, there are people that don't like the New World style combat. That's fine. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But you can talk to the effect of why it is that you dislike a game and why you think that it's not okay or it's not fun or whatever, without having to sound like so wholly negative that you offer nothing constructive and no insight into it other than saying like, this is a shit game. Be someone that people want to come to because they understand and respect your thought process and your inquisitive nature, wanting to know more. Ask questions. Don't make assumptions. A lot of this video looks like you're making a lot of assumptions, bro. And I don't know why. I'm someone that is being directly compared to you and why it's ridiculous that I made the amount of money that I did on that day. But if you notice, there are 4 content creators right here that are above me. Yami, this last drops week, okay, made like probably 2 or 3 times more money than I did in that same week because he was the most popular guy in that entire category. You also never mentioned that Sequisha had like 3 times the number of viewers that I did that day. So he would have made significantly more money than me that day. But you never picked on him. He's been on Twitch for like 11 or 12 years. You never went after him though. I wonder why. Could it be perhaps that like you wouldn't have gotten the response that you would have gotten from a guy like me? You probably figured that I would respond to you. You want to talk about gaslighting? This is one of those moments. And yeah, I took the rage bait, I guess. But at the same time, I feel like I could offer up a message to the community at large to let them know that like, it doesn't always have to be like this, man. You can be critical of a game dev and not be someone that makes like egregious, crazy assumptions like SDF is cheating at his own game on live because this random DM that I got from a guy says that he did. Like, that is a crazy fucking reach. Even if it's true, you have to prove it. There's no sense in reporting it. If you want to be a good journalist, there is no sense in reporting on something like this unless you can prove it. Now, granted, I have said an awful lot in this video about things that I believe to be true and said that I could have gone and like shown you DMs, but I didn't, right? So I guess I'm as much as to blame for that as anybody else. I'm just trying to, I guess, portray myself in a way that like, I would like people to believe that I'm trustworthy. If you don't, I can't blame you. But I don't really think I have anything to prove. I'm just some guy that really likes playing video games, and I like reviewing games, and I like having conversations, talks with game devs. I like asking them about their process. I like asking them about what it is that they're creating, the ideas that they have in their head. I want to learn more about what makes their game unique, because I think that talking to artists about what it is that they're creating for their art form is kind of cool. I want to know more about it. And I think that there's a lot of people that also want to know more about that stuff too, which is why I try to ask questions that other people want to know so that the community gets the answers to the things that they have. I'm trying to be, at best as I can, a conduit for everybody else. I've never been paid a single penny by anyone in Ironmace. They did buy me dinner, but that hasn't changed any of the opinions that I have of them, other than getting to know one guy that worked for the company that I thought was kind of cool. Oh, hey, editor Onepeg here. In regard to the dinner thing, So Bad Strange, Nboss, Jay, Yanni, lots of people were invited. So was he. He was also invited. He even, in Soma invited a lot of people. But for whatever reason, Maybe it's because he likes him. He never mentioned that the lore was there, or Anthony Kong fan, or Sequisha. They were all there too. So, I mean, if we're all paid shills, wouldn't the lore be a paid shill too? But then again, it seems like you and the lore are friends. So maybe you just didn't want to name lore for whatever reason, because you didn't want to associate him with all of the rest of us. I don't know, but I don't think any of them are paid shills, man. I think maybe you just didn't like that you didn't get picked for dodgeball or something. I don't know. If by this definition I am a shill, then I am proud of the shill that I have become. That's all I got to say. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching the video. I'm going to go take a nap, and I will see you guys maybe tomorrow morning. Okay? Thanks so much. Peace.